It's probably the ultimate story of a global reset, this idea of the Great Flood. It just echoes everywhere, doesn't it? Across continents, thousands of years.
It really does. Noah, Manu in India, Deucalion for the Greeks.
Exactly. Almost every ancient culture seems to have this profound memory of the world being washed clean. But what if it's not just folklore? For this deep dive, we're focusing specifically on the earliest written accounts. We have those from ancient Mesopotamia. And we're going to smash those right up against some really modern archaeology and geology theories that suggest a massive actual cataclysm in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, that's the plan. Our mission today really is to guide you through this pretty fascinating body of evidence. We're pulling together sources spanning millennia.
4,000 years, right?
Easily. From Sumerian cuneiform tablets, 4,000 years old, right up to, cutting-edge sea level models and recent digs in the Southern Gulf. We're exploring that potential link.
Between ancient memory and huge environmental change.
Exactly. Did one cause the other?
Okay, let's get into it. And I guess to really understand the myth, we have to start with the source material itself. These stories, they started in Sumer.
That's right. Etched onto clay tablets, some dating way back, late 3rd millennium BC. These are the originals.
Okay.
And for a long time, people just assumed, the inspiration was the annual river flooding. The Tigris and Euphrates can get pretty wild in the spring.
Right. A bad local flood gets blown up into a global story. Makes sense.
It does, but the details in the stories often feel much bigger, more total than just, a rough spring.
Yeah, it feels more final.
Exactly. And the why behind the flood, that's where you get a real glimpse into their mindset. The Sumerian king list, for instance, it just notes the flood swept over things, kind of a historical marker after these legendary kings with impossibly long reigns.
Right, like 241,000 years or something crazy.
Yeah, unbelievable numbers. But it's the later texts like Atra-hasis that give us the motive. And honestly, it's kind of relatable.
Relatable. How so?
Well, the chief god, Enlil, he just wanted some peace and quiet.
No way.
Seriously, the Atra-hasis Epic spells it out. Humans just multiplied like crazy, got incredibly loud, all the noise of civilization, basically. And it drove Enlil nuts because he couldn't sleep.
Okay, wait. So the world ends because the gods are cosmic light sleepers. It's like the ultimate noise complaint.
Pretty much. And, it wasn't his first move. He tried other things. First, plague, famine, trying to cut down the population quietly.
Oh, so population control methods.
Right. And when those didn't work, then came the flood order. It wasn't just a sudden rage. It was sort of a methodical plan born from sheer annoyance.
Wow. Okay, so from these texts, we get the flood heroes, right?
Yeah.
The prototypes for Noah.
Exactly. In the Sumerian version, it's King Zusudra. His name means something like life of distant days. A god, Enki, warns him, tells him to build a boat.
A sealed boat.
A sealed boat, yeah.
Yeah.
He survives for 7 days and nights and then gets eternal life in Dilmun, which many scholars think might be related to modern Bahrain.
Interesting. And then there's a more famous one, Utanapishtim.
Right, in the Gilgamesh Epic, Tablet Exodi. He's often seen as the same figure as Atra-hasis. He tells Gilgamesh his story, again, warned by a god, Ela this time, told to ditch his stuff and build a boat.
And this boat is memorable. The description is wild.
Oh, yeah. 6 decks high and shaped like a cube.
A cube, seriously.
Yep. Loaded with his family, gold, silver, craftsmen, and the seed of all living things.
So the whole ark concept. And he does the bird thing too, right?
He does. After the storm, sends out a dove, then a swallow. They both come back.
Meaning no dry land.
Right. Then he sends a raven. It doesn't return. Finds food, finds somewhere to land, so he knows it's over. Makes a sacrifice. And Enlil, kind of impressed, I guess, grants him and his wife immortality.
What's really amazing here, though, is how you can literally see the stories changing over time. Like they're editing each other.
That's absolutely the key point. It's not just separate myths. There's a clear line. Gilgamesh's flood story borrows heavily from Atra-hasis. Sometimes it copies lines almost word for word. Wow.
And you can even see the editors at work changing things subtly, tweaking the theology, maybe.
How so? What did they change?
Well, sometimes they removed bits that made the gods seem too human, too frail. There's a line in an earlier version where the gods are described as sitting in thirst and hunger during the flood.
Huh. Not a good look for the divine.
Not really. So later versions changed it to something more, dignified. The gods feared the deluge.
Ah, okay. Strips away the petty needs, makes it more cosmic. Okay, but we need to pivot now. From divine annoyance to, well, maybe something more physical, this idea of the ghost land.
Right. This is where we try to connect the myth to maybe a real physical event. The theory is the story somehow remembers the actual flooding of the Persian Gulf basin.
Which sounds dramatic. How far back do we need to go for that?
We need to rewind to the last ice age. The last glacial maximum, maybe 18,000 years ago, global sea levels were way lower.
How much lower?
About 130 meters lower than today, which is a lot.
And the Persian Gulf isn't that deep, is it? Exactly. It's pretty shallow. So drop the sea level by 130 meters, and the entire Gulf basin is dry land.
Wow, the whole thing.
The whole thing. Not just, a muddy coast, a vast, fertile river valley. People call it the Gulf Oasis. Think of an area about the size of Great Britain.
So it wasn't desert back then?
Oh, not at all. It was fed by 4 big rivers. The Tigris, Euphrates, the Karun, and the Wadi Baton. They all flowed into this now submerged area, created huge freshwater marshes, lakes, really lush, an ideal place to live.
A refuge.
Definitely. Some call it the southern tip of the Fertile Crescent. And research suggests it might have been a really crucial place for early humans migrating out of Africa, maybe 75,000, even 100,000 years ago. A stable spot when other areas were too dry.
Okay, so you have this stable paradise for potentially 50,000 years. Then the ice starts melting. What happens next? What's the timeline for its destruction?
Well, the flooding, the inundation, it began gradually around 18,000 years ago. As global sea levels rose, the water crept in. Very slowly at first. It continued relentlessly until the entire oasis was gone, completely submerged by about 8,000 years ago. That's around 6,000 BC. By then, sea levels had actually overshot a bit, maybe 2 meters higher than they are even now.
Okay, but here's the problem, right? That sounds incredibly slow. Thousands of years for the water to rise. How does that turn into a myth about the world ending in, like, 40 days? The timeline seemed totally off.
That's been the major hurdle. That's the core conflict. For most of that 10,000-year period, the rise was maybe a meter every, 65 to 80 years?
So you might lose a bit of coastline in your lifetime. Your kids might have to move the village inland a bit. Annoying, yes. End of the world? Probably not.
Exactly. It's just too slow to be remembered as one single catastrophic event. It doesn't fit the suddenness of the myths.
Oh, wait. What if the myth isn't remembering the whole slow rise? What if it's remembering one specific catastrophic moment within that rise? A tipping point.
Ah, now you're getting to the newer thinking. Focusing on potential micro-events. We need something fast, something devastating within a human lifespan. Okay. And detailed mapping of the seafloor. It's pinpointed a potential moment. For around 11,400 years ago, sea levels had risen to a certain point, maybe about 80 meters below present levels.
Yeah.
And at that specific level, a tiny bit more rise. Maybe just half a foot, like 15 centimeters.
Just inches.
Just inches. But it seems that was enough for the rising saltwater sea to finally breach a natural barrier and catastrophically flood the largest freshwater lake system within the oasis.
Wow. So half a foot of sea level rise destroys this huge freshwater ecosystem that's been stable for, you said 50,000 years?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Suddenly, salt water pours in. It would have completely collapsed the ecosystem. For the people living there, relying on that fresh water, those marshes, their entire world, their food, their water source, gone almost instantly. Contaminated by salt, flooded.
Okay, that's sudden. That feels like an apocalypse.
It does. And then you layer on the climate factor.
Right, because this is happening during a period of climate change.
A period of rapid global warming. Roughly 11,700 to 11,000 years ago. And that warming probably shifted weather patterns dramatically, like the Indian monsoon system. It likely surged northwards, much stronger than usual.
So what does that mean? Bigger storms?
Potentially massive storms, imagine.
Wow.
The ocean is just breaching that critical point, saltwater flooding in. And at the same time, maybe you get hit by one of these monster monsoon storms. Climate models suggest they could dump, 10 or 15 meters of rain.
Meters?
Yeah. So picture this combination. Saltwater intrusion from the sea plus unbelievable amounts of rainfall from the sky. The water level in that low-lying basin could have spiked incredibly quickly.
Could it reach flood levels in, say, 40 days?
It's plausible. Potentially, yes. It would have been utter devastation. It would force everyone out immediately. People who thought the sky and the sea had just turned on them.
So the myth remembers that moment. Not the slow creep, but the terrifying generation where their world drowned in weeks. The trauma gets encoded as this foundational story.
That seems to be the idea. It connects the geological timescale to the human mythological one. And guess where we find evidence of displaced people?
Right on the new coastline.
Exactly. We shift to the archaeology. Around 7,500 years ago, mid-6th millennium BC, you suddenly see over 60 quite sophisticated Neolithic sites pop up almost overnight all along the shores of the newly formed Gulf.
Popping up implies they came from somewhere established, right? Not developing slowly in place.
Precisely. These sites feature permanent stone houses, complex trade networks. They're trading pottery from Mesopotamia, for instance, evidence of boats. This wasn't a slow, primitive beginning. It looks like an established culture reappearing on the edge of the new sea. Some sources call these people the ichthyophagi.
Which means?
Fish eaters. Makes sense, living on the coast.
So tell us about these sites. What did the survivors build?
Okay, well, take Dalma Island off the coast of Abu Dhabi. It's an Ubaid-related site. We find foundations of permanent buildings and, crucially, the earliest evidence anywhere in Southeast Arabia for people eating dates. Charred date stones from that time.
Suggests agriculture, or at least sophisticated gathering.
Right. Settled life. The diet was varied too. Sheep, goat, lots of fish and shellfish, turtles, even dugong. They adapted well.
Okay. Any others?
Then there's Marawah Island, also near Abu Dhabi. It has one of the best preserved Neolithic stone buildings found anywhere in the region. Really solid construction. One room they excavated had at least 5 human burials in it.
Burials inside the house?
Seems like it, yeah. Suggesting it might have started as a home, but later took on a special role, maybe for ancestors? Again, signs of a complex society, thinking about continuity and ritual.
You keep saying Ubaid-related. What's the Ubaid culture, and why is it significant that these sites are related but maybe distinct?
Good question. The Ubaid culture originated up north, in Mesopotamia proper. It was incredibly influential, spread widely, known for its really distinctive painted pottery. Finding Ubaid pottery at these Gulf sites shows they were connected, trading north.
Okay, so they were part of that network.
They were part of the network, yes. But what makes these southern Gulf communities, these potential survivors, really stand out is something else they made. They found these unique painted plaster vessels.
Plaster, not pottery.
Right. Locally made plaster vessels, but painted with designs that clearly mimic the fancy imported Ubaid pottery. And they found these distinctive plaster vessels on both Dalma and Marawah.
So they weren't just importing, they were creating their own local version, a shared tradition?
Exactly. It's just a cohesive group, a shared identity, maybe a shared memory that was unique to these southern Gulf people. It wasn't found in other Ubaid sites further north or west. It points towards a distinct population, possibly displaced from a common homeland. Maybe the Gulf Oasis?
Okay, so wrapping this up, we have these two powerful stories running in parallel.
Yeah, you've got the myths, rooted in the gods being annoyed by human noise, divine punishment. And then you have the physical evidence pointing to this massive environmental upheaval, an event or series of events around 11,400 years ago that genuinely could have felt like the end of the world for the people living in that Gulf Oasis.
So what does this all mean? I mean, the power of these flood myths, maybe it's not just about a dramatic story. Maybe it's about the real generational trauma of watching your home, this paradise that sustained your ancestors for maybe 50,000 years, just turn into a destructive saltwater sea, maybe in your own lifetime or your parents' lifetime. That's like a memory of catastrophic climate change written down thousands of years later.
It reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? And it leaves us with a really provocative thought to end on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Greek writer Berossos, who was drawing on much older Babylonian sources, he claimed that the flood hero, he called him Xisuthros, actually buried his city's records, its written knowledge, before the flood hit to preserve them. So if there was an advanced civilization living in the Gulf Oasis for all that time, what knowledge, what histories, what stories might still be down there? Buried under the mud and sand, preserved beneath the waters of the Persian Gulf.
Wow. A whole lost chapter of human history maybe waiting to be found.
Possibly. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?